Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I knew something was wrong when Laura stopped asking me about the weekend. For the past month, she had been talking about a short work retreat on the coast. 3 days at a resort, meetings during the day, dinner with clients at night. I never had a reason to question it. Then, 4 days before she was supposed to leave, I came home early from the marina and found her standing at the kitchen island with her laptop open. She closed it the second she saw me. "What are you working on?" I asked. "Nothing important." I looked at her. Laura smiled. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Because you just closed your laptop like I caught you stealing something." Her smile disappeared. "It was a reservation." "For the work trip?" "Yes." I walked past her and reached for a glass of water. "Which hotel?" She hesitated. "Why?" "Because you said you were staying at the Harbor Point." "I changed it." "To where?" She stared at me for several seconds. "Seabrook." That was the first lie. I knew because Seabrook wasn't where her company held retreats. I had worked with two of the executives there before. "Who's going with you?" "Jacob, seriously." "Who's going?" She sighed. "Travis." I set the glass down. Her ex, the man she had dated before me, the man she had insisted was completely out of her life when we got married. "You're going on vacation with Travis?" "It isn't a vacation. 3 days at a beach resort with your ex isn't a work retreat. He's not just coming with me, he has business there." "And you're sharing the trip?" "We're staying at the same resort." I laughed once, not because anything was funny. "So that's what we're calling it?" Her expression hardened. "You're making this into something it isn't." "No, you made it something it isn't when you lied about where you were going." She folded her arms. "I need some space, Jacob." "You can have space." She looked surprised. "I can?" "Yes." I picked up my glass again. "But if you're leaving this marriage while you're taking that trip, don't expect me to be standing in the same place when you come back." She stared at me. For once, she didn't have an answer. And that was when I knew. She thought I was warning her. I wasn't. I was telling her what was going to happen next. Laura left Friday morning. She didn't apologize. She didn't cancel the trip. She didn't even try to explain herself again. She came downstairs wearing a white blouse, jeans, and the perfume she usually saved for special occasions. Her suitcase was already packed. I was sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee. She stopped near the door. "Are you really not going to say anything?" I looked at her. "You've made your decision. So you're just going to let me leave?" "You're an adult, Laura." She shook her head. "You're being cold." "No, I'm being clear." She grabbed the suitcase and walked outside. I followed her only far enough to close the door behind her. A black SUV was waiting at the curb. Travis got out. He walked around the vehicle, took Laura's suitcase from her hand, and kissed her cheek. She smiled. That was enough. I didn't need another explanation. Travis looked toward the house and saw me standing in the doorway. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he gave me a small nod. I didn't return it. Laura got into the passenger seat. The SUV pulled away. I watched until it disappeared, then went back inside. At 9 that morning, I called Martin Reeves, the attorney who had handled the purchase of our house. "I need to talk about my marriage," I told him. There was a short silence. "What happened?" "My wife left for a vacation with her ex." Martin didn't react dramatically. "Do you have proof?" "Yes." "Then don't confront her again until we talk." I wasn't planning to. I met him that afternoon. We reviewed our property documents, bank accounts, investments, and the business I owned before the marriage. Then Martin asked something I hadn't considered. "Has Laura been moving money?" "I don't know." "Find out legally. Don't touch anything that isn't yours." That evening, I reviewed our joint account statements. There were several transfers I didn't recognize. $3,000 here, $2,500 there. Then I found a payment to a storage company. The account was in Laura's name. I called Martin. "I found something." "What?" "She rented a storage unit 2 weeks ago." He was quiet for a moment. "Do you know what's inside?" "No." "Then don't guess. Document it." I stared at the statement on my screen. Laura hadn't decided to leave me that morning. She had been preparing to leave for weeks, and suddenly, her vacation made a lot more sense. The next morning, I drove to the storage facility. I didn't break in, and I didn't touch anything. The unit was in Laura's name, so I simply photographed the rental information from the records I could legally access and sent everything to Martin. He called me 10 minutes later. "Don't go any further," he said. "I'll handle it." "Fine. What matters is that we now know she was preparing for something." I went home and started looking through the financial records Martin had requested. That's when I found the second problem. Laura had transferred nearly $12,000 from our joint savings account over the previous 6 weeks. Most of it had gone into an account I didn't recognize. Martin confirmed it was an account Laura had opened shortly after she rented the storage unit. She was building an exit plan, he said. For how long? Hard to say. I leaned back in my chair. Probably longer than I want to know. That afternoon, I found something else. Laura had left her personal email account open on the home computer. I wasn't looking for anything, but a new reservation confirmation was sitting at the top of her inbox. I opened it. It was for the trip. There were no business meetings, no clients, no conference, just a resort booking, dinner reservations, and a private boat tour for two. The reservation listed 2 guests, Laura Bennett and Travis Cole. I took screenshots and sent them to Martin. Then I closed the email. I didn't need to look any further. That evening I sat on the back porch with a coffee while the sun went down. My phone rang. It was Laura. I answered. "Hey," she said. "Where are you?" "At the resort." "With Travis?" She paused. "Yes. At least you're honest now." "Jacob, I don't want to fight." "Neither do I. I needed this." "You needed a vacation with your ex? You don't understand what our marriage has been like." "I understand perfectly." She sighed. "You've been distant for months." I almost laughed. "You moved money out of our account and rented a storage unit." Silence. "How do you know that?" "Because you weren't as careful as you thought." "Jacob, I can explain." "You can explain it to Martin." Her voice changed. "You hired a lawyer?" "Yes." She went quiet. Then she said something I'll never forget. "You're really doing this?" I looked across the yard. "You started it, Laura." I ended the call. Then I received a message from Martin. He had found something else, a photograph. Laura and Travis were standing together on the resort's private dock. They weren't pretending to be friends. They were kissing. And Laura was wearing the wedding ring she had told me she wasn't sure she wanted anymore. Laura came home Sunday evening. I heard a car pull into the driveway just after 6. I was already sitting in the living room. The house was quiet, clean, and exactly the way I wanted it. A moment later, the front door opened and Laura stepped inside. She stopped when she saw me. She looked tired. Not guilty. Tired. "Hey," she said. "Hey." She dropped her suitcase beside the door. "So, we're really doing this?" "You tell me." She stared at me. "I didn't cheat on you." I looked at her for a moment. "Then what was that?" I placed my phone on the coffee table. The photograph of her kissing Travis was on the screen. Her face changed immediately. "Where did you get that?" "Does it matter?" "Jacob, listen." "No, you listen." She swallowed. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that." "Like what?" She couldn't answer. "You told me it was a work trip." I continued. "You moved money out of our account. You rented a storage unit. You went away with your ex. Then you kissed him. It was complicated." "No, it wasn't." She stepped closer. "I was unhappy. You could have told me." "I tried." "You booked a vacation with another man." Her eyes filled with tears. "Travis understands me." I nodded slowly. "Then you should have married him." She flinched. "I didn't want to hurt you." "You didn't accidentally do any of this, Laura." She looked toward the hallway. "Can we just take a few days?" "No." "Why?" "Because I've already filed." Her face went completely still. "You what?" "Martin filed the paperwork yesterday morning." "You couldn't wait for me?" "You left for 3 days with your ex. I decided I didn't need permission to protect myself." She walked toward the kitchen, then stopped. "What about the house?" "The house stays with me." "You can't just take everything." "I won't. We'll divide whatever the law says we divide." She stared at me. Then her voice became smaller. "So, what happens to me?" I looked at her suitcase. "That depends on the choices you made before you came home." She shook her head. "You're really serious." "I've never been more serious." She looked around the house. For the first time, I saw fear instead of confidence. Then she asked the question I'd been expecting. "Can I stay here until we figure everything out?" I stood. "No!" Her eyes widened. "Jacob, you wanted freedom." I walked toward the stairs. "Now you have it." Laura stood there for several seconds, staring at me. Then she pulled out her phone and started calling people. She spent nearly 2 hours trying to find somewhere to stay. Eventually, her sister agreed to let her sleep there for a few days. Before she left, she stood by the front door with her suitcase. "You're really not going to help me?" "I already did." She stared at me. How? By telling you the truth. She shook her head and walked out. I thought that would be the end of the conversation. It wasn't. The next afternoon, Martin called me. Laura contacted the attorney. What does she want? She wants to know whether you would consider reconciliation. I almost smiled. After the vacation? That's what she said. I leaned back in my chair. Did she mention Travis? Martin paused. She did. What did she say? She claims Travis has stopped answering her calls. That didn't surprise me. Later that evening, Laura called me herself. I answered. Jacob, I need you to listen. Go ahead. Travis isn't answering me. I said nothing. He said he needed some time. You told me he understood you. He does. Apparently not well enough to answer the phone. She became defensive. This isn't funny. I didn't say it was. There was silence. Then she said, he told me things were going to be different after the trip. What things? He said we could figure out what we wanted. I looked out the window. And now? He says he doesn't want to get involved in my divorce. I nodded. So he wanted the vacation, but not the consequences. Jacob, please. No, you made your choice. I made a mistake. You made several. She started crying. I thought you would fight for me. That sentence told me more than anything else could have. You wanted me to fight for you after you left with another man? I wanted to know that you still cared. I cared enough to stop letting you disrespect me. She went quiet. Then she asked, is there any way to fix this? No. You don't even want to try? I tried for years. I can change. You should have changed before you left. She breathed shakily. What am I supposed to do now? I answered without hesitation. Figure it out. She hung up. 2 weeks later, Martin called again. The financial review is finished. And? Laura transferred money from the joint account. Some of it will be returned during the settlement. I nodded. And the house? Your ownership position is strong. That was when I realized something Laura hadn't. She hadn't left me for a new life. She had simply walked away from the old one before making sure the new one existed. 3 weeks later, Laura came to my office. I was finishing a meeting when my assistant told me she was waiting outside. Send her in. Laura walked through the door wearing the same confident expression she used to wear whenever she thought she could control a conversation. It didn't last. She sat across from me. I want to talk without the lawyers. Then talk. She took a breath. I made a terrible mistake. I know. I was angry. I felt ignored. I thought you didn't care about me anymore. You could have asked for a divorce. I didn't want a divorce. You went on vacation with your ex. I know. She looked down. I thought you'd stop me. I stared at her. That wasn't my job. Her eyes lifted. You didn't even try. No. Why? Because I'm not going to chase a woman who has already decided to leave. She wiped her eyes. I still love you. I shook my head. You love what we had. What's the difference? The difference is that if you still loved me, you wouldn't have needed another man. She sat quietly. Then she asked, are you doing this to punish me? No. It feels like punishment. You're losing the life you chose to leave. She looked toward the window. What does that mean? It means the house is being sold. Her head snapped toward me. What? I've decided to sell it. But that's our home. It was. You can't just erase everything. I'm not erasing anything. I'm moving forward. She stared at me for several seconds. Where will you go? I bought a small place near the marina. That surprised her. You already bought another house? Yes. When? Last week. She looked almost angry. You planned all this without telling me. I didn't owe you a preview. She stood. You've changed. I had to. She walked toward the door, then stopped. Jacob. I looked at her. If I had never gone on that trip, would you have left me? I thought about the question for a second. Yes. She looked stunned. Why? Because the trip didn't destroy our marriage. I stood from my desk. It showed me what was left of it. She lowered her eyes. For the first time since this started, she had nothing to argue with. She walked out without another word. I watched the door close behind her. I wasn't angry anymore. I was finished. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. There was no courtroom drama, no shouting, no last-minute attempt to destroy each other. Martin handled the paperwork, and Laura's attorney handled hers. The house was sold, and the proceeds were divided according to the settlement. The money Laura had moved from our joint savings was accounted for. Her belongings were hers. I didn't take anything that didn't belong to me. But the life she had expected to return to was gone. The house was gone. The joint accounts were closed, the marriage was over, and Travis was no longer part of her plans. I heard later that they had stopped seeing each other completely. 3 days after the divorce became final, Laura called me. I almost didn't answer. "What do you want?" "I just wanted to say goodbye properly." "We already said goodbye." "I know." She was quiet. Then she said, "I thought you'd always be there." "I was." "That's what I mean." I leaned against the kitchen counter. "You thought I would stay there no matter what you did. I thought you loved me enough. I loved you enough to give you chances." She started crying. "I ruined everything. You made choices. I have almost nothing left." I looked around my new place. It was smaller than our old house, but it was quiet. It was mine. "You have a job. You have your own money. You have your family. You have everything you earned," she whispered. "I don't have you." "No." There was a long silence. Then she asked, "Are you happy?" I looked through the window toward the marina. "I'm peaceful." "Is that the same thing?" "For me, right now, yes." She breathed out slowly. "I wish I could go back." "I can't." "I know." She hung up. I placed the phone on the counter. For a moment, I thought about the morning she left. She had walked out believing she was choosing between me and Travis. She had been wrong. She was choosing between the life she had built and the life she thought was waiting for her somewhere else. I didn't leave her with nothing. I left her with exactly what belonged to her. What disappeared was everything she assumed I would keep providing after she chose to walk away. And that was the difference. I hadn't taken her life from her. I had simply stopped carrying it for her. 6 months after the divorce, I saw Laura again. It happened at a small coffee shop near the marina. I was standing in line when I heard my name. "Jacob." I turned. Laura was sitting by the window. She looked different. Not happier exactly, just quieter. "Hi," she said. "Hi." She motioned toward the empty chair. "Can I talk to you?" I sat down. "How are you?" "Good." She gave a small smile. "I heard you bought a boat." "I did." "You always wanted one." "I know." She looked down at her coffee. "I used to think you would never actually leave me." "I know." That was arrogant. "Yes." She looked up. "I've thought about that trip a lot." I didn't respond. "I thought I was going somewhere with Travis," she continued. "I thought I was choosing a different life." "You were." She shook her head. "No, I was running from the one I already had." I watched her carefully. "Maybe." She took a breath. "Do you hate me?" "No." That surprised her. "Why not?" "Because I don't spend my time hating people I no longer have to deal with." She smiled sadly. "That sounds like you." I stood. "I should go." "Jacob." I stopped. "Do you ever think about us?" "Sometimes." "Do you regret leaving?" "No." She looked hurt. "Not even a little?" "I regret that it ended the way it did." "But not ending?" "No." She nodded slowly. Then she said, "I thought you would fight for me." I looked at her. "I did." "When?" "Every day before you left." She stared at me. "That was the part you never saw." I walked toward the door. Outside, the marina was quiet. Months earlier, Laura had left me for a vacation with her ex because she believed I would still be waiting when she returned. I wasn't. She had expected me to fight for the marriage after she abandoned it. Instead, I fought for something else. My dignity, my peace, my future. And when I closed that door, I didn't leave Laura with nothing. I left her with the one thing she had been asking for all along: freedom. I just stopped paying for it. Thank you for watching.